Hello, everybody. Welcome to Bogus Hangout. We have a fairly full room so far this afternoon. I'm going to have everybody introduce themselves and say hello and tell us what they're up to for next week or so. Fab?
Hello, hi. This week, I just arrived in US, and I'm working a bit from the office over here. Just working with people across the pond, and nothing in particular. It's just syncing. Sometimes it's quite important to, even though you can have Hangouts, Slack, all the kind of Skype and thing, being in the same place helps. So that's what this week is about.
Sounds good. Terry?
Good day.
Good day.
What have I been doing?
Yes.
Oh, about the same. Working on a few accounts. Nothing really, worth discussing. No nuggets for you today, Bill.
Okay. Ammon?
Well, this week I've mostly been doing things like property searching, getting ready to make my big move. So it's fun. It's always interesting to look at new homes and think what it would be like to be there. It's funny how they make you think of different lifestyles sometimes. You look at one property and you can imagine yourself having croissant and coffee in the mornings, even though that's not how you usually start your mornings. It's just something about it makes you think of it.
I've experienced something like that buying a home recently. It was a lot more work than I expected, a lot more signing of paperwork, and a lot more permanency to the idea that I'm going to be living in the same place for 20 or 30 years, and I'm going to be paying for it for that long. But don't have to pay rent, and I get tax breaks on what I do pay. So there's some plus to it.
Oh yeah, definitely. Property is one of those things. They always say, look, if you're going to invest in property. I hear they don't make it anymore. Land always goes up in value. It doesn't go down.
Mm-hmm. Arthur, would you introduce yourself and tell us what you're up to for next week or so?
I'm Arthur Ammon from Alberta, Canada, but I'm here in Escondido, California on a holiday, or at least I'm trying to educate myself via Hangouts, see if it's a good way to teach classes and stuff.
You're a neighbor of mine now. I'm in Carlsbad.
Oh, well, you should come golfing with me today. So I got a tee off time in 2 hours.
I've got a big audit I need to catch up on, but that would be fun if I had time.
I must admit, it does look, Arthur, as if Google's new product, Meet, might be absolutely perfect for you because it supports larger groups. Hangouts only takes 10 people max, but Meet takes 30, so it would be a good class size that could be in there, or a couple of instructors and still room for the entire class.
Thanks, Ammon.
It's one of those ones I was expecting to come for a while. You remember when Google released Duo? I pointed out that's the home market, the one-to-one ordinary user. But I didn't think that it would be that long before they came out with the commercial side, and it does look like Meet is going to be it.
So Meet is a paid product, Ammon?
No, it's just like Duo. It's a chat app, but this one is for business networking. Really, it's designed for conference calling up to 30 users, HD video. I haven't seen yet whether it does what Hangouts does and automatically hooks into YouTube.
They recently shut down Spaces, didn't they? Which was the Slack type of, or at least going after that business segment, but that was probably a different type of product.
It wouldn't surprise. Google try so many things. It's such a huge company. It's easy, certainly for us involved in search, to always think of Google primarily as a search engine. But these days, that is definitely not true. They are a technology company, and they're invested in so many different areas.
And Spaces was one of those where they did fail fast.
Yeah.
It didn't stay around very long.
No, they didn't seem to even try that hard. I didn't see any marketing for it.
No.
I almost wondered if it was a project that had been started under the previous directorship and therefore dropped when basically all of the social changed hands. It wasn't seen as a necessary thing and was phased out from there.
It's possible. I mean, they really came on strongly with the Local Guides project recently, and that's been given a lot bigger push than Spaces ever has.
Yeah.
Actually, I used it quite a lot in the past few weeks, and I love it. It's very good. On some stuff is and like that's because ultimately you need maps, and from maps you would have gone anyway into TripAdvisor and all these kind of other products, or ultimately choose stuff like Airbnb is doing. So they have it already. They have maps, and it was making so much sense to put them together.
Right, I take a picture just about anywhere, and Google sends me a notification within a few minutes saying, "We noticed you've taken a picture at the such and such park. Would you like to publish it to Maps?" And I took a picture of a sunset yesterday afternoon, and so yeah, I published it to Maps. And
Unfortunately, my class is not Jim. It's a bit too
Oh, it's
early.
vodka. Sorry, my mistake.
It's 3 p.m. in New York. I need to wait a few hours at least. Yeah.
Yeah, I was surprised too how much views you get on Google Maps. Like I got 3,500 in 1 week from a picture on a restaurant that I didn't think had 3,000 visitors a week.
yeah, I've been getting they part of that Local Guides program. They send you emails telling you how many views your photographs get, and I took a bunch of pictures of a local mission, uploaded those, and they've gotten over 100,000 views at this point.
And I'm surprised on why people haven't tried to act this a bit already. So, for example, I was quite surprised. I took a picture of this steak in a restaurant in Estonia, and that is the most viewed picture of that restaurant. And then I went again in a shopping center in Estonia, and I took a picture, and that was the most viewed. So the third picture that I took, I did a watermark with like let's try to put a watermark with company logo and things like that, and they haven't killed the picture yet. And imagine you start taking pictures, very good pictures, and then there are X many views, and then you can promote your company with, I don't know. At some point, that we need to figure out how to not let people like me stick their company logo or things like that on.
Well, yeah, definitely not people like you who go blabbing it. You're supposed to find a secret like that and then keep stum. You're supposed to tell everyone.
I don't think I'm particularly smart. Someone else did already. Right? There's none.
We used to have a lot of fun optimizing maps in various ways, which is one of the reasons why, web design companies and anything related no longer get automatic pins on the map. But if you are promoting restaurants, leisure places, generally tourist attractions, Google Local and therefore Google Maps is massive, because the accidental discovery of your coffee shop, your restaurant, your bar via Maps when somebody's searching for something else, and of course the pins show up of local things that may be of interest to the visitor, it's huge.
And Google is noticing where I'm at by location-based services on my phone. It recognizes that I'm at a certain store. It asks me if I want to write a review of the store while I'm still in the store, which they've asked me for a few when I'm like 10 feet over in the store next to it, too.
Yeah.
So they aren't quite perfect, but I think they're getting lots of reviews from bothering to ask people to write reviews of places they're at.
Yeah, but definitely, you know, it's still a big factor, and it's something that everyone should be taking into account. Is that, you know, Google Maps is one of the primary apps used for people navigating an area they're not used to, and you know, the ability to be discovered on that serendipitously is a big deal for a lot of businesses that can get what we call passing footfall traffic.
Yeah.
Hey Manny, how are you? What have you been up to lately? Ah, no sound. We've got no sound for you. Hold on. Okay, performing this hangout in the form of interpretive dance and mime. We'll give you a second to sort that out, but hold that question because we will ask again. How about you, Bill? Did you say what you'd been up to recently?
No, I didn't. I've been digging into the patents. I found one yesterday that talks about the people also ask questions that you see sometimes in the search results. So I looked up what does it mean when your dog barks, and it gave an answer, and it asked a bunch of other questions like, why does your dog bark in an empty room? And you know, they're actually looking through queries people type into the search engine and using those, and they are questions that people also ask.
That sounds like one of those philosophical questions to me.
Yeah.
If a dog barks in an empty room, does it make a noise? Answer, ask the neighbours. They'll bloody tell you. Yeah, but I was doing something very similar. I was, you know, asking a couple of questions, and yeah, the related questions. Sometimes they're not great. Sometimes they're pretty good. But one of the interesting ones that I noticed is still way off is I asked about what are the laws on such and such in the UK, and then it had lots of related questions about those laws, but every single one of those was taking me to an American site, and it wasn't picking up the fact that I'd specified in the original query. The original query got it right. It was giving me only UK results, but the related, they haven't managed to target geographically yet.
The patent didn't say anything about them targeting geographic areas.
But of course they need to, because if somebody says, you know, what are the marriage laws, the chances are they mean in their state and their country. It
mentioned that they're weighting and ranking questions that they might show, but they're weighting those on the basis of things like how frequently the questions are asked.
Yes.
And it doesn't say asked where.
Exactly, but one of the things that their algorithm is missing at the moment is obviously if somebody does specify a location as a parameter of their search, then that should be taken as one of the key parameters when expanding the question. They should all include that one parameter.
Most likely, they should.
It's basically picking the location as an entity. So in the same way they remember, like Barack Obama, when I then asked three questions down the line, how tall is he?
Right, but they're failing to do that for the people also ask questions. They're not bothering to put geography in as a factor.
Yeah. And if they're not doing that with geography, then you've probably got to bear in mind there's going to be a lot of other entities they haven't put in there yet. It's still quite a basic matching thing.
Which
Doesn't seem to have any particular rules on what changes the context of those questions.
which sort of goes the opposite of another patent I'm looking at today that I'm probably going to write something about, which is about what they call semantic geotokens,
Oh, cool.
where they're maybe better able to identify when a page is actually about a particular place.
Yep.
Because
It's certainly something I've noticed all search engines getting better at over the past 10 years, but especially Google. There was a time in the past when if you did a search about London, you'd also get some results from London, Ontario. If you did a search about Birmingham, I think that's your office there, Fab. Can you mute for just a sec?
Tell him to quiet down in the office there.
He's in the kitchen. You can tell. You could hear the microwave. Your soup's done. It does seem that they got much better at that. If I search from Birmingham and it knows I'm in the UK, it almost always gets the right Birmingham, and that definitely didn't used to happen.
So these geotokens, they're saying if a page has a location in prominent places on the page, like the title or the page header, those they're considering geotokens.
What about in the footer?
Not necessarily. That's not really. That might be some mentions of a place on a page aren't really actually indicating that that page is about that place.
No, it can just be sort of like the registered address for something and nothing to do with what the page is about. If you think about publishers often having, a disclaimer or a company logo at the bottom that says where the publishing house is, but the publishing house may be in a completely different city or country to the stories that they're covering.
Right. Yeah, because that's where I put contact information, and I always include the schema there. So.
And same thing also for like a local directory. So the page like local reference could be completely different from and more specific than my company being based in one location. So you have probably multiple.
So I'll write that up in more detail today. Give you 5 minutes and I hang out and not go into any more detail at all. Because it is interesting seeing how they might focus better on a location for a page.
Yeah. It does seem almost counterintuitive because a lot of people would automatically assume, well, hang on, if this information is on the page and near the top, surely it should always have been in the algorithm as a geographic token.
But we know that once upon a time it used to be that Google would take words from one from column A, one from your footer, one from your header, and take that as a phrase and say your page contains that phrase, even though those words aren't together as a phrase.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's one of the reasons I used to like exact match searching, which of course was an advanced search and therefore most people wouldn't have done it. But, putting the speech marks around it or the old square brackets made sure that those words had to be together and in that order for the results to show. I always thought that a lot of search engines gave up very easily on trying to educate customers, which I think sometimes has limited them, that they always try and change the engine to suit the average user without uplifting the average user's ability. And what we've seen over the years is that actually people are adapting. They are using longer phrases. They are Getting more specific. Well, once upon a time, the average keyword was, the search term was one word, maybe 2 words. Now it's definitely 4 and 5.
I remember using Alta Vista in the early days and using the advanced search in Alta Vista because if I didn't use advanced, I didn't like the results I was getting.
No. But once it got spammed, nobody liked the results they were getting.
No.
But like equally, like so imagine that like the answer that you want to find is on that website, even using a site column type of search, it makes so much sense because like there's no point of like getting all the web pages out there to compete with each other. You just want to find this thing within this site. But how many people use it, right? Very little.
To me, one of the first things a new SEO should be reading is Google Hacks, so they actually understand how the search engine works.
Yeah, I'd say that that's certainly a thing. But I'd also say that, this ties in with, take something like Snapchat. A lot of older adults struggle with it, and for a while, everyone said, how come kids seem to get this intuitively and the older ones don't? Is this a great design for them? And it turned out that the kids were actually talking to each other and finding out how to use it by trial and error. And it was simply that they had a bigger circle of friends and weren't scared to ask, whereas a lot of the adults were just assuming from the outside that the kids had got it by magic and expected to pick it up the same way.
Yeah.
But it shows you that, the users do adapt, they do learn. And I think sometimes the search engines just did give up a little too quickly. Just having a very subtle thing saying advanced isn't enough for the average user. I think there should have been a prominent homepage link to more information which told them how to get better search results. And I never did see that from any search engine.
In the earlier days, the web, people like Jacob Nielsen used to say, people don't scroll down web pages. Don't make your web pages too long.
Yeah.
And then he revised that. He said, we've discovered people now scroll. They will go down further on a page than they used to.
When he said people won't scroll, was that when he had the 80 different misspellings of his name in his footer?
I'll tell you,
actually hoping they weren't.
For someone who's supposed to be such a guru, when he first started writing, half the stuff he wrote, from doing it, I knew he was wrong. I stopped reading his stuff a long time ago.
I wouldn't say he was wrong, but he was doing studies, and the panels he gets in are, they are dependent on exactly how big a sample you take. I worked with a market research company, and if you're doing a thing which is supposed to be general users, a statistically significant sample is thousands and thousands of people, not 20.
Right. And I used to like reading stuff from Jared Spool, who was
the best.
Sort of Jacob Nielsen's antagonist. He would read a Jacob Nielsen article and try to prove the exact opposite. And all
he was my guru, Bill.
Yeah.
I think that's important in any field. You have to have people prepared to challenge and test others' hypotheses. And I do feel sometimes that SEO has lost some of that.
All of it.
I wouldn't say all, because I think a few of us are still going around and poking holes in things quite regularly. And I think there's always a few that want to be a hot shot and therefore will try and prove somebody wrong, often not doing so. But, I do think there are some, but there's not enough. There's not enough peer review.
Right.
One thing is that the amount of content that goes out and people that push content has increased dramatically, and the frequency, and because otherwise you don't get noticed. That means that sometimes you see stuff that is shit, but you just have to let it be. Like there's very little chance that you can go and review you need to pick a fight, who to review and who to like go to them and say it's not true. And often people probably don't take that time. Don't.
Yeah, and also, as you say, there's just so much volume. It's not like any of us can police all of it. And I think a lot of people then say, oh, well, I can't police all of it. I'm not going to police any of it. And you know what? That's not for me. I think if somebody knows you've seen it, if it's reasonable that you've seen it, then you should review it. You don't have to go out and hunt for things to disprove. But I think anything that comes to your attention anyway, you should be fact checking. I think you should be giving your readers your opinion.
Right. I remember when Google came out with the Rank Brain update, and there were at least 10 articles the day afterwards with people explaining what the Rank Brain update was, even though they didn't work for Google and were guessing, and in some cases guessing really badly.
Yeah.
I got an application last week from a guy who mentioned to be an expert on Rank Brain, and I had to hit the delete button instantly.
Oh, you told me you'd lost my application.
Sorry, Ammon.
Damn. Oh, well, there's that job gone. No, it definitely isn't, as you know, one of my bugbear authors definitely did a nonsense piece on Rank Brain, which got everything mixed into it, and pictures of the Terminator. You know, suddenly Rank Brain was supposed to be every AI thing possible, and yeah, nothing to do with that. You know, that's just not it. I thought the hangout we did with the Google guys really did get to some of that. It stopped some of that. Obviously, Dave Harry did a good roundup as well by picking the ones that had gone into bits and pieces, applying good logic to the various pieces and finding how they fit together, which ones supported, and mentioning some of the ones that, yeah, you know, really were a bit forward mark.
Yeah, Dave's discovery on that was pretty good. He come across some pretty interesting things that were kind of.
Yes, absolutely. And Word2Vec was one of the ones. I saw a lot of people suddenly gain interest in that after Dave pointed out how related it was. Of course, I mean, word vectors were nothing new. We'd seen this. Oh, I'm trying to think when I wrote my article on vectors, which was particularly looking at the time we were calling it theme vectors, but this was taking 2 or 3 words together and working out the vectors, or looking at the relationships between words while calculating the vectors, how often these words co-occur with various things, to get an idea of what the page was about.
In a lot of ways, Ammon, I think Google has been doing that from day one. It's just been a constant refining of that.
Yes, and that's always struck me as much more Bryn's kind of area. Bill, what do you think? Because that did always seem to me, Bryn always seems to be the one that's a little bit more semantically interested at times.
He is. He came up with the fact extraction patent where he identified some books and patterns associated with those books. And Google then crawled the web and looked for pages about books with publishers, authors, publishing dates, editors, and so on, and look for the patterns. And that did a good job of finding and sort of foreshadowing some of the knowledge graph stuff that Google was doing.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like 1998, Google's doing stuff that gives you some idea what they might be doing in 2011 with the knowledge graph.
Yes.
They were.
Yes. Well, I think it probably took that long to make because, you know how it is. You ask a dev about something, he says it will take 6 months, and 6 years later, there it is. So, Manny, what have you been up to lately? How are you, sir? Oh, you've bypassed the computer. Now you're doing the chipmunk voice. It's particularly cute for you. I like it. He's getting messed about today, isn't he?
How's
Try
this?
it. Yay!
There we go. Can you hear me
So
now?
how are you?
Good.
Yes, yes.
I'm doing great. Good to see everybody.
Good seeing you.
Yeah, I've been underground, you know, since I went back for a second round of fatherhood. I had to take some time to adapt to that. So I'm re-emerging now.
Cool. That's a bunker then you're in. It looks like you're in a sauna.
Yeah, it feels like it too right now. Yeah,
So
it's Dad's man cave.
what kind of things have you been up to work-wise recently? Or what
Most
kind
recently,
of direction are you?
Yeah, I've been working with doctors. We just finished a book called Thinking About Quitting Medicine, where I brought together 13 physicians and looked at why they chose to do careers outside of medicine or how they chose to adapt their medical careers. So that's been a bit of my focus. As we discussed the other day, I think more of my energy going forward will be outside of medicine. I went back for a dose of camaraderie, but I think my heart is in the space of semantics, artificial intelligence, and just looking at how the computers are doing some deeper thinking than I learned in psychiatry training. So
yeah. I mean, this has always struck me as a thing. I've always thought that you are uniquely positioned as a neuroscientist with your background in psychology and as a programmer to be really thinking about some of those kind of real thinking issues, just as AI is the hottest topic in the world.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm ready to jump in the deep end of the pool.
Make sure it's got some water in it first.
Good point. Good point. Good point. Especially if I'm going to dive head first, right?
Right.
Yeah, I must admit, the doctors thing, it's tricky. I mean, there are a lot of doctors who quit. And these days I'm seeing actually more and more scientists who quit. I think of people like Pierre Farr, who studied to be a microbiologist, then went and worked for Google, and the web side of things has stuck. Now, all right, maybe those little microbes weren't particularly charming. He didn't want to spend the rest of his life around germs or something, but it takes a lot of dedication to get your qualification in that. And I think there is a real failing in the scientific community when so many are abandoning it. And some of the people I know, it was that by the time they finished their qualification, they felt that science was very political, that who you studied with really affected whether people would even read your thesis and paper, and certainly whether they would agree with it. And obviously that's not what most people go into science for. Science is supposed to be dispassionate and fact-based, and when they found it was political and quite emotive at times, it actually chased them away.
Yeah, I got a lot of that. And with me, as far as the emotions in science belong at the bleeding edge, at the intersection of intuition and passion. And when I was fighting off dogma, a lot of the times that was a waste of the energy, because I'd much rather think that if I thought something new, that whoever I went to would help me explore it to see if I had gone off the deep end or whether I was charting the territory. And a lot of times it really came down to people protecting their territory.
Yes.
As opposed to hearing a new possibility that might be a threat to them, but was closer to the truth. And that frustrated me a lot.
And I think, unfortunately, two professions that are going to suffer similar things and worse are medicine and the law, because traditionally they have both been so associated with money and success that there's a whole different motivation coming into play there.
Yeah.
There are a lot of doctors who, if they don't make money, are made to feel like they've failed somehow. That actually practicing medicine was not the point of the exercise.
Definitely that.
And I think that scares off some good doctors, but I think a lot of them actually do connect with their passion and just, go to work in hospitals where they actually feel they're doing something. But it does make it very hard for those who get disillusioned with medicine, with the science of it, and really can get quite ostracized and even aggressive emotions coming from other doctors.
I think I was saved from a career in practicing law by getting a job with the court as a staff attorney and becoming an administrator at that court for 14 years. It gave me a glimpse of what the law is actually like in practice. And it's sort of like making sausages, being like the law.
Yeah.
You don't really want to watch.
Yeah, better on the outside. Yeah.
You get a whole different view from the inside of the courtroom in front of the jury box than you do from in the clerk's office.
It's again, that's another one where you would hope everyone going into this is there because they believe in justice and due process. But unfortunately, politics comes in again very heavily. You either want to be a rich lawyer or you're hoping to get a stepping stone into politics. And I also found that a lot of the lawyers at the lower end, who are actually where you would expect them to have the most passion, instead just put in the hours. They do the bare minimum, and they seem to have lost all of the passion for any kind of justice. The number of lawyers I've seen who do the pro bono cases, for the unpaid ones, the ones that are government paid over here, who literally, they don't care. They do not care anymore. And you kind of think, well, why do the job then? I'm glad that most of the time that doesn't seem to creep into our profession. I've seen it in some agencies where, particularly if they're low paid, a lot of people are just putting in the hours. But by and large, it is an emotive field. It's an exciting field, and it does seem to evoke passion in people. And I believe that passion is the core ingredient for a good career. Full stop, barring nothing. I think, all of us, if we were to look at who the people in our industries or people in any industry that inspire us are, they are the ones that are deeply passionate. Even if they're not technically the best or, scientifically the best, their passion is what enables us to go, man, that guy really loves that field. I would like that passion on my team. I would like to talk with that guy about this thing because his passion comes through. Hey, Jen, how are you?
Good, how are you? Sorry I'm late. I had to finish up a phone call first.
I see. What were you on the phone about? Was this a client or?
No, family.
So yeah, you can't get rid of them.
Yeah, I didn't really feel like, can I talk to you later? Because I need to go on a video chat because they would have been like, what are you doing? Is this like a webcam thing or something?
Are you doing sex shows? No, that's just my family asking me that, but yeah. So how have you been? What have you been up to lately?
Lots of writing. I'm waiting for a bigger article to be published. I'm just waiting on some information. And lots of writing like usual. Story of my life.
We were saying at the start of the Hangout, a lot of people I've heard recently seem to be talking about an update. Are you hearing the same sort of things? Seems to have been a lot of flux in things last couple of weeks.
Yeah, there's it seems like they're doing a lot of stuff lately.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's a lot of people are saying it's all related. Some people are saying, yeah, no, it's not related. Because we're actually having this discussion on Facebook today, that a lot of people are kind of lumping in anything that is not explainable, like that's not confirmed by Google, that it's, phantom. But the problem with trying to attribute stuff to this, mysterious phantom is that, it could be dealing with, content one day, it could be dealing with something above the fold the next day. And so it's a lot of times it's really hard to kind of figure out what exactly it is. It's the issue.
Yeah.
For me, phantom is cleanup of all the quality algorithms.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it is quality related, but
yeah,
what specifically is, it's Google trying to keep us on our toes, I guess.
Yeah, Michael Thomas in the audience was saying that he says that science is political nowadays because of the funding. I think there's certainly some truth to that. But I think that's, again, some science is more than others. But yeah, my goodness, that certainly affects anything pharmaceutical or medical. The pharmaceutical industry is, wow, that can be cutthroat. Because the money at the top is huge. As you know, big pharma, those patents are everything. So
if it costs $250 million to come up with a new drug for something, I see some research on some problems where they talk about using something really simple like vitamin B to fight diabetes. There's no money in vitamin B.
Yeah.
So
exactly that
type of research doesn't go that far.
Yep, there's definitely that. And of course, they are always chasing the ones that, let's find a formula that we can make that isn't easy to replicate. And it doesn't always have to work very well. As long as they can make you believe it does and it's hard to replicate and they can patent it, it's technically worth more than something that actually does a great job and is cheap.
Right. And the cure that they came up with for hepatitis C, which is take a pill every day for 90 days and you're cured. And it was really effective. And somebody bought it from the original owners and raised the prices tremendously.
Yep.
Well, think about like that pharma bro. What was his name? Martin something that's, everybody hates him. I mean, that's what he did. He bought up stuff and then jacked up prices.
I can't remember his name. Everyone I know just referred to him as scumbag.
Yeah.
Is actually I've been following a lot and that is deadline, right? And that's what he did. But if you look underneath on what is happening in the industry, there was a very marginal drug. What it did was, let's say, something that everyone does. Ultimately,
The difference was that he got caught. We got to put a name to it for once, which so often we don't. And that's why everyone was so angry. They're angry at the whole situation. He was just the one that got caught.
And then, the EpiPen thing, that caused a huge thing here in the States. With people they basically started telling them you have to buy them as a set of 2. They jacked up the price for them significantly. There was no competitor that, for people that need to have EpiPens, there was no alternative of what they could do. And like up here in Canada, I bought EpiPens and I thought they were expensive up here. And then I found out how much you guys paid for them and I was like, oh my God.
Yep. And let's face it, that is sometimes the dark side of marketing. And much as I am passionate about and love my field, there are things about marketing I don't like. I don't like when a lot of things are just chiseling, are using science to basically persuade people to pay more for less. I don't like the way that things like candy bars keep changing size and getting smaller, but they make the packet look like it's the same size. A bag of chips has more and more air in it these days.
Yeah.
those kind of things I don't like. I never liked the fact that back when I was studying marketing, you know, they talk about the guy who saved an airline 20,000 by switching the meals from having 3 olives in the salad to having 2 olives in the salad, because most people didn't notice the difference, but it saved them a lot of money over the course of all those meals over the year. I hate the fact, you ever notice those little sachets of sugar? They're just over half a spoon. Do you know why they are half a spoon? Do you ever remember hearing that research years ago that the human taste buds can't tell the difference much more than half a spoon? If it's literally a grain over half a spoon, you can't tell the difference between that and a full spoon, pretty much, when you're actually doing a blind taste test. But what they forgot is there's a lot of people who take 2 sugars. And when you only got half in each, now you've got 1 sugar that they're putting in when they put in that 2, and they can tell the difference. They can massively tell the difference. It's only got half as much sugar as it should have. It's you know, they'd have to put in another half before it got to within a half. So yeah, these things just strike me as idiocy. They don't strike me as good marketing. This is just chiseling.
Or
any fool can give away less.
Or in other cases, like in the past, I worked on few pharma clients, and sometimes when, like, you know, if it's about selling a pair of shoes, it's your decision to buy it or not. You know, I can do all the marketing that I want, and it's fine. But the day, you know, we have to convince you that between this stage and this other stage of a disease, there's a third stage in between, and here is the pharma for. Just because the company needs to sell it, that's where, you know, that's where it become like, you know, I didn't really feel comfortable at that time. Like doing that kind of stuff, you know, to be honest. And luckily that didn't go that far, but like sometimes, you know, there are real people with real disease, and you know, like, I'm not saying that particular drug was effective or not, but like still, you know, you marketing something into someone else, a medical condition, you know. And
a while back, Dr. Manny, who's here with us today, said to me that what he liked about my work was I didn't just make business effective, I made business beautiful. And I do hate the people that are out there doing something different, which is making business ugly. And it may be effective, but they make it ugly. I think, you know, the world is perfectly capable of creating its own ugliness. We shouldn't be going around helping it. Well, that was a slight bit of a change of topic, but that's what the Bogus Hangout is all about, and the way that different fields come together as well. You know, most shows might think, well, SEO, we just talk about title tags all day. No. All of these things, you know, really do interact, and what I love about SEO is how much it is starting to actually embrace marketing, and so how much it's actually starting to get into the bigger picture of things. And again, that's an area where psychology is still quite new to that. CRO is bringing people's interest in a bit, but it's always been one of the parts of SEO I've absolutely adored. That I think, you know, you still see people, oh, well, we need to rank at the top for this. No, you don't. Look, let me give you a quick bit of psychology. Why is everything in the last place you look? Because, of course, once you've found it is when you stop.
Yeah.
So the really important thing to be is in the last place that each searcher looks. And you need to understand that isn't always the first place. In fact, it's very rarely the first place. They usually do have to go around and compare. The optimal position is to be in the last place they look. And what you should be doing is creating a strategy that makes you the last place they look. All of this stuff about positioning is nonsense.
Right. Especially on the web, Ammon. I've yet to see a client that, you know, the average number of times that it takes someone to come to the website beside that before they buy is always a number greater than 2.
Yeah. And it reminds me, you know, we talked about Jared Spool earlier. I know Bill will remember Finding Confidence from Lincoln, which was a study of links. Now, at that time, the Jacob Nielsen's of the world were busy counting how many links somebody would actually follow. You know, you can't have navigation more than this deep because people lose confidence or lose interest after 7 clicks.
And there were SEOs who insisted that you shouldn't have a page more than 3 clicks away from the home page. Otherwise, it was a wasted page.
Exactly.
I would say that, Bill, because that's the way I always build. That's my goal, that a person should never need more than 3 clicks following my navigation to find a page. Because if they can't find a page within 3 clicks, I know they're gone anyhow. So you can do that and have it 7 deep, right? Where they discover it. It should be by the 3rd click.
As long as people will continue to follow your links and have some confidence that they're making ground towards getting to where they want, what they want to find, what they want to see.
Yeah.
You're probably okay.
That's exactly what Jared found, is that there wasn't a set number. What he did, and it was exhausting stuff, because he asked people what they expected to find and what confidence they had that they would, you know, find the information they were seeking on the next click before they clicked. And then they'd get there, and whether or not they were right, he would then say, right, how confident do you now feel? And it was the confidence that turned out to be the factor. There's nothing to do with the number of links. It's as long as they still feel confident that they're making progress and getting closer, they will click endlessly. He counted some of these that were 17 click paths and completed successfully. Now, I appreciate having everything within a few clicks, but I'll bet you, Terry, when you look at your conversion reports, often those conversions come from people who did about 9 clicks. Some of them backwards and forwards between, the same page. Exactly. Exactly. So the idea that everything has to be 3 clicks away isn't the rule. That's good access. We should do that anyway.
Yeah, that's what I mean. That's how I do it, to make sure that my navigation is working, right? And that's why I put descriptions with, I don't like bare links. They have to be in copy to really work, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So it's just hub and spoke. Websites have been using hub and spoke from day one.
It also depend on the size of the site, and
I can do it on any site.
Well, if you on a site with 2,000 URL versus a site that got 2 million URL, there are probably different entry points of where you get there, and
yeah, it's all about designing, so you're leading them, but you don't want to have to make them go so deep. They should be able to find it. If something is on the 17th level, they should probably be also able to see it on the 3rd level. That's my theory about it. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm not saying I'm right.
I think you'd be very, very hard pressed to get every page on Amazon within 3 clicks.
And some people don't make the best decisions in the world about how they organize sites. I worked with a client, or I was providing a proposal to a client, and they had a shopping comparison website. They had 7 million products, and they had 7 products on their homepage, including a jar of horse liniment. It's like you've got 7 million products to choose from, and you're choosing a product that most people don't want to buy.
Yeah. Well, maybe it tasted really good.
And they asked me how good I thought their SEO was on a scale from 1 to 10, and I was honest with them. I told them it wasn't very high.
That's the most gentle possible response, isn't it?
Yeah.
Terry would have turned around and said, -1,000.
Yeah.
Sorry, that don't go that low.
Well, at that point, I was still entertaining the idea of possibly working for them and helping to change that. But I just couldn't let that pass. They were like testing me as to how much I could tolerate of their, I think the right word's bullshit. Yeah.
Yeah.
And one of the people behind the website was a former search engineer from Google, from Yahoo, I believe. And it's like,
we know Yahoo. What do they know about search?
it was a 7 million product shopping site where they were including products as examples that weren't products people wanted to buy. Come on. How much common sense does that make?
Yeah. There are some very strange decisions that people make, and worse, there are some very foolish oversights that people make when they put up automated rules but don't really think them through, and some of those products that can then turn up. And when they do things like the last 8 searches, and then one day some trolls turn up and their most embarrassing possible content is coming up again and again and again because it keeps showing up in those 8 and people keep looking at it because these searches look really funny. And yeah, it can be days before they finally spot it and get rid of it, by which time, thousands of people have been laughing at them.
Yeah. I remember when I stopped using AltaVista as a search engine. It's because they showed me an ad I could buy 2 Dalai Lamas for the price of 1.
Yes. Yes. How many books on Bill Slosky did they have when you were doing vanity searches? I must admit, AltaVista tried to sell me several times.
Nice.
Once a similar scenario, like when customers don't realize that, like, on your site, that they're actually on your exclusive site, and they search for competitor products on your site, and then like there was this e-commerce client crying because all the related searches and top search stuff was competitor products and was their own site. It's like, sorry, no. Like,
they can totally take advantage of that. Like, if you go, at least in Amazon in Canada, if you go and search for Google Home, they don't give you any results for Google Home. They only give you Alexa. So, I mean, there's a lot of sites can totally take advantage of when people are searching for competitor products by serving up their version of it, right? And so many sites don't do that.
Yeah.
Right. When I do voice search on my phone with Google Now, and I ask it for news about Amazon, it says, "Oops, I didn't get that."
Yeah, I must admit, if you'd stayed in psychiatry, Manny, I think you could have made a fortune talking to basically, in-company teams who are all obviously crazy. I've seen some of their decisions.
Seeing their disorganized thought process.
Yeah, and obvious signs of living in denial as well. But yeah, it is a time now in the industry where I think we are getting more rational, more people getting to know at least enough to start making better decisions. There's always going to be newcomers. That's never going to change. Well, at least I don't think it's going to change in the next 20 years. And I think search is going to change before it does. We are getting more and more towards the age of the voice assistant, where we ask a question and we get an answer instead of 10 blue links. And I think that's going to, come in before people change enough to completely eradicate it. It's a bit like SEO. Yeah, we've got a lot of experts in SEO, but at any given moment in time, there always seem to be more newcomers to the industry in total. When you look at the global user base, then there are people who've been in there 5, 10, 15 years. Because even as you know, we all age, and there are that many more experts, it's an exponential growth. So the percentage is at best the same, and actually maybe going down sometimes because some of them unfortunately die off or move to other industries.
So SEO's dead? What?
Well, do you know what? I think it may be, because I proved the other day in a conversation with Dean Cruddas that actually SEOs are zombies, which is why we're all going into AI now, because we're running around going brains and all desperate to eat all the artificial intelligence we can.
That could be. We're getting to the closing time of our episode. Like to have everybody go around once and give us a closing thought. Manny?
Well, I'm just happy to see everyone. That's my closing thought. It's good to be back above ground.
Yeah.
Even though I'm in my sauna.
Yeah, with the camera lights, it can absolutely feel like a sauna as well. Believe me,
Yeah.
I've sat in front of mine at times thinking, am I on a hangout or am I trying to get a suntan?
I should speak. Okay. Jed?
Nothing too exciting for next week. And as for random thoughts, good to see everybody again. Good to see Ammon back too. Well, technically not seeing him, but seeing his avatar.
Yeah. Hopefully, we'll soon be in a new place and then be able to have the cameras back. And I really am hoping it might be as soon as just a couple of weeks and completely relocated and set up and good to go.
Mm-hmm. Fab?
Closing thoughts. Happy to see everyone as usual. Let's continue with this. And no, nothing special. Work here in New York, going to Florida. Hopefully will be way warmer. It's actually quite hot. And looking forward to some hot weather. I haven't been wearing shorts in ages now, so I'm going to give it a go.
Yeah. So have you got a favorite restaurant in New York yet that every time you're there, I've got to go there, I've got to, I don't know whether it's bagels or a particular sandwich, but have you got that yet?
Not really.
To give you more time off, you need to find one.
The office is next to like an Italian deli, but it's those kind of like famous one that probably have places all over the world. But it's very good Italian stuff. But it's not very,
Yeah, but you're Italian. You're not going to find that exciting. Try and find.
But you don't find
a Jewish deli.
You don't find it in London, right? So it's new to me anyway recently. But I haven't got really a choice yet. I go with the flow, depending on where friends are and people, colleagues.
Yeah.
I yet have to find the kind of destination where you always eat. No.
Don't let Americans lead you into restaurants. They eat squirty cheese over there that comes in a can. You can't trust them.
I'm quite fussy actually. Probably the best restaurant I've been is a Japanese one nearby. Yeah,
yeah, cool.
Okay. Terry?
Next week, I'm going to be marking up recipes. Trying schema with recipes.
That's a surprisingly competitive industry. I know quite a few people in the recipe business who are doing affiliate stuff because obviously there's so many upsells. If you've got a good recipe site, there are not only the ability to connect them with suppliers of particular groceries and herbs, and of course dried herbs can be shipped all over the world, but of course kitchen equipment is expensive stuff, and there's some serious brands out there. Anyone who's ever seen Le Creuset knows how expensive some of these things can be. It's a casserole dish, great, it's £160. What? What?
And that's about how much they weigh too.
Yeah.
Casserole was delicious.
Or
Yeah.
recently,
Competition. One of my ingredients is different.
recently I even seen like takeaway companies going down that route because ultimately, you realize that it's too difficult to cook it yourself, and you just click and get someone to make it for you. And it's just quite funny.
That's what they want us to believe. Definitely. Just Eat had a whole campaign based on that for a while, didn't they? Don't cook, just eat.
Deliver as well. I'm not sure whether they go specifically on recipe, but they show you like kind of the way that these chefs make food and things like that. Yeah. And ultimately, how do they get traffic is through recipe type of.
I'm also hoping that I can get some of those pans where it's step by step. That's my goal. I can crack some of those.
That mayo, like the Japanese mayo. It comes in like a bottle that's super.
I find watching the top chefs actually puts me off. I used to, try and pick up new recipes that way. And then I watch them dicing vegetables and I watch me doing it and I just go, yeah, okay. Yeah, it was a 10-minute dish for you. I've just spent 30 minutes on these vegetables.
Yeah, but remember, I used to do that. So
yeah, I know. Show off. Go on.
that's one thing that I have maintained is skill with the knife. Like I still turn potatoes when I peel them.
Lead with that in your next client meeting. Next time you got a troublesome client, lead with that. I still keep up my skills with the knife. Just thought I'd mention that. Have you seen me boning meat?
But anyhow, that's what we're doing this week.
Awesome. Bill, what about you?
I have a bunch of audits to catch up on because for some reason we're really busy, but we're doing well.
That's good. That's good. Yeah, a friend of ours, Paul Flanagan, is doing an audit, but of course his is actually, I believe, a financial one.
No. You used to do in-store audits, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think we are at time, so I will say goodbye to our audience.
Thank you, everybody.
Everybody.
Later next week.
Okay.